All right, folks. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Great to see you all here. If you can let me know in chat real quick if you can hear me. And great to see you all joining me to learn about the ACP, not the ACP 220, the Confluence Cloud App Admin. We're going to demystify it a bit because I knew nothing about it. And Confluence also recently, or Atlassian, released a certification around it about 3 weeks ago at this point. So we're going to dig in and learn about what the app admin can do, what they're expected to do, and I've also got some more information on additional learning options about that particular exam, which Chad, one of my coffee sponsors, has mentioned that they are going to be scheduling, which is amazing news. Love to hear how that goes, Chad, and when you happen to take it. Debbie, welcome. Good to see you. We will give folks just another moment to trickle on in, and then we will dig in and get started with our learning. But while we're waiting, I'll drop a quick poll in there just to see what folks think. Curious if folks have ever been a Confluence App Admin. And if you say yes, I'm kind of jealous because I typically am left out in the cold. I tend to just be a lowly space admin, if you will. So far, evenly split. All right. All right, folks, we are going to get started with slides. There's quite a bit to cover. There is no way we're going to get to everything about being an app admin. There is just so much stuff, and I'll talk about how much stuff there is as we go. But we're going to jump in. This will be similar to my other live learnings where I will start with a bunch of slides just to orient us, but I'll also be going back and forth between those slides and a Confluence Cloud Premium instance. So I'll be walking us through what these things look like and talking about how and why we might choose to use these various tools. Now, again, keep in mind, I can't get to every possible thing an app admin does, but we'll get to some of the highlights and some of the things that really just confused the heck out of me. When I was first learning. Quick way of introduction. My name is Rob. I've been using Atlassian products since about 2013, and my first exposure to Atlassian was Confluence. Many of you have heard the story if you've been in here, but my training was just someone pointing at a Confluence logo saying that's the knowledge base, and that was my training. Since then, I've served almost every role in Confluence except being the app admin. I've been the person who the app admin has come to for help. I have been the person who has told the app admin, hey, this is breaking because of these settings. But at my organizations, I've happened to never have been that role. I've never had that direct access, which is one reason I put this learning on, and one reason I'll talk about another project I'm working on as we go. YouTube is great. You all can see and hear me. This is going to be recorded and saved on my YouTube, so you will be able to come back and review. You can share it with your team. You can come find it. But there's other ways to interact. Please use the chat. Drop your questions in there. You'll see me drop polls like I have at the top, and we're evenly split in terms of have you been an app admin? Kima, welcome, my friend. But also, if you like this content, if you can hit the like button, and I'll ask you to do that quite a bit. I'm now a professional trainer, professional content creator, and any support you can provide is incredibly helpful. The easiest way to support me is hit the like button if you like what you're hearing. That helps other people find it, and it tells me that this is some content you would like to see more of. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. I have regular videos. I put out one yesterday on Jira, Scrum, and Kanban boards. So I'll continue to make other recorded content in addition to a ton of live stuff. And of course, please save and share this. You can send it to someone else, keep a bookmark and refer to it. Okay, an agenda. Again, we won't get to everything in app admin. There's a lot in this for this role. The first is what even is an app admin. So we'll just kind of orient on what they can do and what their intended purpose is. And we'll also talk about what they cannot do. This to me was frustrating before I knew what the purpose of an app admin was. Because there are going to be some things that the app admin is unable to do that you would assume they can do. For example, they cannot license users. That's a different admin. We'll discuss what the global scope is and means in terms of being an admin and in terms of Confluence. We'll talk about some configuration they can perform, announcements, and security. Kima, thank you for the reminder, my friend. It's been a week of no school for my children, so I'm going to be running a little bit behind on a couple of things. I'll see if I can get to it right after this, though. As Kima mentioned, though, my email's in the bottom left. Please reach out with questions, concerns if you need help. Also, if you're looking at purchasing one of my learning courses and you cannot afford it, shoot me an email. I'll help you out. Then we'll get hands-on. We'll probably talk more hands-on than these 4 things, but I just put 4 things that I found particularly interesting and useful being an app admin. So here's what we're going to dig into. So my first question is, what does an app admin do? And I'm kind of asking this because when I first learned about Confluence, I knew the term sysadmin, system administrator, but I'm curious what folks think they're up to. And Debbie, you kind of nailed it. It's kind of hard to remember on every level, every tier of what people do. So I'll just drop a quick poll. And if you've got an answer in chat you want to drop in, please drop it in as well. What do I want to do? I don't know. I made up 4 answers. I put in these 4 answers because these are some of the things that I was thinking about as I went. And before someone sat me down, actually, no one has ever sat me down and told me what an app admin does. I had to go figure it out. Now, the app admin is the administrator for Confluence. So this is important to keep in mind. I didn't put a slide in here, and I probably should have, but to Debbie's point, the way Atlassian has structured its setup is it has multiple levels of access and multiple types of admins. Now, many of these admins you might consider to be the system admin. However, at the top of that is the organization admin, the org admin. We're not that. We don't have complete access to everything. We only have direct access to Confluence itself. This is really powerful, though. It means we can administer just that system. We can get into stuff. We can see things, and I'll show you specific examples. And it means we have some special powers that other individuals will not have. Is this the wrong one? Oh, did I put the X? Oh, I put it in the wrong spot. Nuts. I'll quickly go fix that because I had fun with it. But there are some things that they can do and some things that they definitely can't do. And let me go grab... There we go. I fixed my slide. Kythra, don't say anything. I know. Let me back on up. Now, there are going to be some things that they can't do that they just have no ability to manage. And that's going to be managing users in groups and managing other applications. And this is where, when I thought the app admin was a system admin, I would have assumed, hey, they can add new people, or hey, I need a new group created. They can't do that. App admins cannot manage like licensed users. They cannot give someone access to Confluence who doesn't already have it. They won't be able to do a lot of different things that you might expect an admin is capable of doing. And this can be frustrating because you might be the app admin, or you might go talk to the app admin and they say, I'm sorry, I can't make a group for your team. I'm sorry, I can't fix a licensing issue, just because that's not what the app admin does. So the scope of what the app admin can do is limited just to within Confluence. And you need to understand that the way Atlassian has set that up is user management is outside of that. So these are the biggest challenges I've seen. Managing groups was the biggest frustration because I would need a new group for my technical writers, and I as the app admin or I as the space admin cannot make those. I have to go find an org admin or a user management admin. This should have been a globe. I was up late making these. I ran out of time. But this concept of global scope is also important to the app admin. I've been a space admin very frequently, and they have the ability to manage individual spaces. So they can do things within one space that only exists in that space. App admins, however, can do things across the entire instance. So an app admin, for example, can create an automation that runs in every space. An app admin can control global permissions, and there's a couple of options here, but it's the ability to turn on public links. That can be shut down by the app admin, and then no one can use it. It's also the ability to do things like make spaces. They have the ability to look at analytics across the entire instance, which is very useful at an organization's level. And I'll have to be careful with my terms. That'll be very useful at a company level because the company can then figure out how is our team using Confluence and how can we improve it. Just based on looking at usage patterns or what's been done or what hasn't been done. So the global scope is something to keep in mind. Whereas a space admin is restricted to just the space they're in, the app admin can impact every user of this Confluence instance. And now we're going to jump over into Confluence. While I'm talking, a quick reminder, hit the like button if you like this. And there's also 2 other ways you can learn this. And I'll talk more about these QR codes below me. The top code that's slightly bigger, this will take you to a 4.5-hour training course on being a Confluence App Admin and prepare you to earn the certification that Chad mentioned earlier. That link on the top includes a certification voucher. The link on the bottom is the same course on Udemy's platform without the voucher. So you have 2 options to learn a lot more about this. Again, it's over 4.5 hours of content plus practice exams plus quizzes plus resources. And that's why I can't get to all this in just an hour. So I'm just covering the highlights. To get to the app admin panel, I just need to look in the top right here, and there's this little gear icon, and that takes me to this screen. Now, if you don't have this access, you won't see this, but this is the app admin panel. Now, it looks kind of like being a space admin, but there's going to be just different options over here on the left. Excuse me. Now, another thing that we'll talk about as we go is app admins will be able to turn on new features. So this role-based access control is one, but just quick way of orientation. It drops me onto mission control, and this is similar to mission control for a space. It's going to keep track of what features have been enabled or disabled, what kind of activity is going on, which spaces get the most access, what's being created, how many spaces do we have. All of this information that for the average person using Confluence is kind of but for someone who's expected to maintain and manage the system is very important. It's even got callouts to what public links are being used and how much are they being viewed. Again, the purpose of the app admin is to maintain the instance, the whole program. And so they have extra visibility into how it works. Now, there are a lot of different tools. You'll notice here on the left, as I scroll, there's just more and more and more. And then under each of these sections are even more. Now, again, we are not going to get into all these. The courses that are linked under my head gets into everything. The good news is you can search. So there's a search bar where you could just type in, I don't know, permission. And you'll see anything with just permissions. So I haven't memorized like what's in every group. I just remember, hey, there's a search bar and there's a couple that I remember. If you have additional access, for example, I'm a user management admin in this instance, I can go to user management or groups, but this takes me into the Atlassian admin panel. So that's why it's a link. So you may not have these depending on your level of access. So this is the panel. Again, it'll look and feel very similar to being a space admin. There is just a lot more in here. And again, everything I do in here will impact absolutely everything. Oh no, 9,000 inactive pages and 4,000 pages without active owners. Debbie, the good news is you won't be bored, I guess. So for folks who are unfamiliar with these terms, an inactive page is one that hasn't been viewed or updated in a period of time. So I have a, where is it? Right here. This is saying I have 270 pages in live docs that haven't been touched in 6 months. So I can this tells me some great information. I can go into these spaces and I can start maybe archiving that content. And space admins can see this for one space, but the app admin sees it for everything. And same thing with inactive owners. If an account is suspended, revoked, disabled for some reason, the owner won't be there anymore. And it is, I guess, relatively new, Kythra. Relatively meaning, I want to say 3 years old at this point. So this is that panel. Again, accessible by the gear in the top right. And to get back to Confluence, you can just click on the arrow in the top left. Wrong direction, Rob. All right. Here's another fun question. My partner works in marketing, and I asked her what this was, and she had no idea, which made me slightly amused. So marketers might want to know what this is. What is a favicon? I'm going to just put a couple things in the Q&A here to see what people think this is. All right. And as a reminder, folks, hit that like button if you like it. Other ways to support me include those courses directly under my head. Don't worry, I'll describe what a favicon is. So app admins have a lot of control over configuration. In the prior, wrong screen. In the prior poll, most folks clicked on configuration. That's not all app admins do. They can't manage users, as I've mentioned, but they can do things like put in announcements, and they can do bulk imports. One of the biggest things they do though is configure the instance. And this is where, as an app admin, you'll be very hands-on for a small chunk of time. But once things are set up and rolling, you might just kind of leave it be and then review it every few months. But we can do things like change the global landing page. We can disable notifications, change date and time formats, a lot of the behind-the-scenes stuff that, again, an average user probably never thinks of. And even as an admin, I don't have to worry about very much. I think Rodney's on to me, but I'll see what the other... No one thinks it's a transformer? Come on. So a lot of configuration, a lot of different dials and buttons. This is an old audio mixer. So if you had a band playing or a whole bunch of people making music, this device would help you create it. The first is notifications. Now, you can set instance defaults and do things like set up an email and also disable some. And this is, again, global, instance-wide. This isn't just saying for one person you don't get notifications. I typically wouldn't turn those off entirely, if only because I want to make sure people get notified when specific events occur. Individuals, though, and for most of the configuration in here, unless it explicitly states otherwise, individuals can override their own personal setting. For example, we can export PDFs from a page in Confluence, and as an admin, I can set a global setting for that. But if a space admin changes it for their space, that one is used. So in some cases, the app admin will set a preference or a configuration that can be overridden, and in some cases they can't. This is one of them. So we can set instance defaults, what kind of notifications are sent or how they are sent and received by folks. And also if an org admin has set up a custom email address, so confluence@heen.tech, I can use that instead of the generic Atlassian provided one. Another major bit of configuration are global templates and global blueprints. This is another frustration I have with not being the app admin. If you're in cloud, you'll end up with 150 or so blueprints that just show up. Individual space admins can flip them off in their space. The app admin can flip them off globally. So if your entire company does not care about the team calendar's blueprint, you can turn it off for everyone everywhere in your instance. You can also make a template that applies to every space. So if your company has specific things that they do, hey Tushar, good to see you. You can make a template that everyone can view. Quick shout out to Kythra. Does a lot of great stuff in Atlassian side. We're doing a chat on the 22nd around how she uses things like Jira for personal projects. Definitely worth checking out. She's done some great stuff, not on the corporate level, personally to use these tools. But these global templates will save you a lot of time because you won't have to copy and paste them between spaces, and you won't have to, fuss around with a search. So your app admin can create these, which is great. Another underutilized feature is this announcement bar, and I'll show you this when we go back to hands-on, but this will put a Confluence-wide bar at the top of your screen with some kind of announcement. The system is, there's a system outage, you have some update, be aware of this event, and it can be date restricted, so you can plan them out. You might sit down at the start of a quarter or a month and just tee up a bunch of announcements that turn on and off. Now, you don't have the ability to target specific spaces with this at this point in time, and you can't say only certain types of users get this type of announcement. So it just slams a bar at the top that everyone can see. All right, our favicon question. I kind of played a trick on y'all, and Rodney caught me out. Technically, it's none of these things. It's not a transformer, although it sounds like a transformer. It's not necessarily a logo or a feature or a drink flavor, although Whoever said drink flavor, what would it taste like? The favicon is I'll quickly show you. It's this little tiny icon that shows up. So in this case, the Confluence logo is the favicon, or favicon. So we have the ability to change that as an admin. I'll show you how. I could have just stayed over here. Quick reminder, if you are liking this content, hit the like button. And then also very quickly, I think I've got another slide. But there are other ways to support the channel. You could be like Chad and become a channel member, get you early access to stuff. And I'll buy you a coffee when I see you. So if and when we meet, I'll be happy to pay for the coffee. It's off-brand Fanta that's not as fizzy. Thank you, Kyther. I appreciate that. Up at the top, I can see this announcement bar. Okay, so Rodney's pointing out you can select users which see it. Rodney, if you could jump into Discord and share how to do that, because I would love to see this explanation. I've got a Discord channel where we share other information about this and other topics, so hopefully Rodney will share some of his magic in there. This is the announcement bar. I just have a test, and we have a couple options with it. We can, of course, control what's in it, and it shows up right here at the top under Admin Tools. Again, this is something that groups I've worked with have underutilized. In my mind, it's a great feature because it's a way to communicate with everyone who uses Confluence. Now, this particular one, I'll just go in and edit it. It's visible to all private users. In this context, a private user is just someone with a license to Confluence. You can have announcement banners that non-licensed people see. And the big difference there is if you have public links or anonymous access, that would be the public visibility. So if you have a help center for your company's product or release notes, and you want to announce to them, you can have an announcement that is visible to them, or separately an announcement that is not visible to them. You have to give it some kind of title, so maybe I'll change this to ACP 220 course is now live. I'll make it blue. Sure. And some kind of additional message. You're limited to what you can put in the message. You can do hyperlinks, and you can add emoji. Frustratingly, this doesn't do anything. If I click this, I have to type in the little colon. Yay, smiley face. At the bottom, I have a little bit of control over who can see it. Again, public, anyone on any kind of link, private, only licensed users. This is an odd terminology because they don't call them private users anywhere else, as far as I know. And then you can schedule it. So those are the options. Again, I can't target specific groups unless I have some kind of extra JavaScript knowledge, as Rodney has suggested. But I can tee up multiple announcements. So if I know there's things coming up over time, I can add additional announcements as we go. Templates are the next big one, and I'll just do a search for global templates and blueprints. And this for me is one of the biggest frustrations. Again, because there are so many blueprints, which are just Atlassian or Marketplace provided templates, you'll see they're not even in alphabetical order. I go from S to C to D to V back to D. So for me, this list is good to have. However, folks quickly get buried in it. Even if they know how to search through it, it can be annoying. But only app admins can make global templates, and only app admins can disable these globally. So I go back and forth on if I would go turn a bunch of these off. It's good to show to folks, but it also just sucks up so much screen space. It might be beneficial to pick off some of the ones you know your team isn't going to use. And again, space admins can disable these at the space level. So sometimes I just let the space admins deal with it, or I think about letting them deal with it. The big advantage, though, is the global templates. Now, I won't dig into how to make these. It's identical to making a space template, so a template that is scoped to a single space. But once you create this, every space will have access to the template, so you don't have to copy between it. I guess a fun question, because we're talking about JavaScript. Why is it called JavaScript? What does it have to do with coffee? Does anyone know? And I'll drop a quick poll. Tushar, the difference between a blueprint and a template. Good question, my friend. Called JavaScript. And I'll try to talk and type at the same time. and I can't do that because I can't type well. A blueprint is provided by Atlassian. So when you first turn on Confluence, you'll have blueprints. They can also come from marketplace partners. So if you have an app, it might include templates, and those can be inserted globally. Those are called blueprints. Templates you create your own are just called templates. That is the difference. They'll both show up when you make a page under the templates panel. So for the end user, there's no difference. They look and feel the same. Kyther, that's not exactly what they are, though. It's because they're provided. That's the distinction I think Atlassian is trying to make. They're being given to us by Atlassian. They all happen to be global. Like as far as I know, there's no space scoped blueprint. They're just calling out that this came from someone else. You can? Can we? I want to learn something. If you can drop a link or something in here, my friend, or drop it in Discord, how can we make blueprints? I got to quickly jam this thing in there. It's coffee. It's a hype thing. I need more bad examples for why is it called JavaScript. There we go. Some bad answers for why is it called JavaScript. They should call them system templates. Scara 7, I don't necessarily disagree. Atlassian is in the process of redefining a bunch of terms. For example, soon we're going to have spaces in Jira. Hopefully they can roll this one and I'll see who I can talk to. But for me as an app admin, this ability is one of the most useful things I can do. Thank you, Roddy. I assumed you had to have some kind of additional non-plebe like me access. I'll let that simmer, though. So again, these global blueprints are a big use case for me of that app admin, and something that as the app admin you might be doing a little bit more frequently than going in and messing with configuration or other things. Notifications is the other big area, and that shows up under configuration. This will probably be something like many of these settings you go into every once in a while. One of the biggest ones is changing the default email. Now, this demo box doesn't have a domain associated with it, like a custom email address, so I can't change it. And this is also something I need an org admin to help me set up. So this is another area where if someone else allows me, I as the app admin can change this. So don't be surprised if you see some things like this popping up. A few other important callouts for notifications. Confluence puts together a recommendation email, and it's an email you'll get, every week that says, "Hey, check out these things," or "We think you'll find this useful." Individual users can flip this off, but app admins can turn it off across the instance. And there's a callout right here saying if it's turned off, individuals cannot turn it on. So typically for notifications, my recommendation would be leave them on. Let individuals choose what they want. But make sure you teach and show individual users how to do this. So don't just assume people will find it. Yes, Rodney, but what is the wizard's name? That's always what I wanted to know. What is the wizard's name? Our JavaScript question. All right. 8 votes so far. No one said it's coffee. I like coffee. Thank you, Chad, for being a coffee sponsor. You keep me awake on these early things. Also under notifications, we have other settings for Slack and Microsoft Teams. So if you're using these tools, you also have some control over what app-wide notifications are sent. This is important because some of the biggest complaints I see around systems are people just getting buried in messages. So please keep in mind as the app admin, you can enable or disable these. Now I'll just grab this link. Let's see. All right. And back here. A quick ad break. I've been working on a big project the past few weeks ever since the ACP 220, which is the Confluence Cloud Admin certification, came out. And to extend your learning of being an app admin, I've got 3 options for you. I'm going to be doing the 220, which is that certification, live on YouTube in my study sessions starting in mid-September. So be on the lookout at my channel or where you signed up for this for all of those sessions. There'll be somewhere between 8 and 12 one-hour live study sessions. I also have two options though if you want more. I've got a 5.5 hour course or 4.5 hour course plus practice exams plus quizzes plus a bunch of other stuff. You can get that over on Udemy, and that'll be a cheaper rate, or you can get it at my site. If you buy it through my site, you will get a voucher to go take the exam. Now, typically that's $250. You'll get a bit of a break on the price, and you'll get the learning opportunity, and that's the QR code on the bottom. So if you're looking at earning the app admin certification, these are some great options for you. We're going to go through it live for free, and please feel free to jump on in. That'll be recorded, always accessible to you. If you want to take the exam, you can grab the course with a voucher at that link, and then I'll go find my other link if you want to take it without the voucher. Also, just to call out, if you have a learning stipend or a learning team, they might be able to help you out with the price on these. So don't be afraid to go ask your team, hey, do I have a learning budget I can use to go take this exam? And that can be a great way to kind of pay your way. So these are just some options to continue to learn more. And there are 2 links for you in there. And again, it'll be free on YouTube once I start in mid-September. All right. Our JavaScript question before I ask this very important question. JavaScript, it's actually a hype thing. When they made it, Java was really popular, and so they called it JavaScript to try and convince people to use it. As far as I know, it has nothing to do with Java, the programming language. But someone please correct me if I have that incorrectly. The wizard's name is Joe. Okay. What does an app admin and our atmosphere have in common? And I could not resist asking this question. I'll go see if I can find. There it is, yeah. They both have global access. I try and sneak in a pun every once in a while. This is another massive thing to remember about the app admin that I've spoken about quite a bit as we go. But there are many areas that the app admin has access and control across the platform. And that's what I think of when I think of an admin. They can go into anything and do anything. There are 3 main areas that when I think of the app admin being global, mainly jump out. One is permissions, and we'll talk about the global permissions in a moment. We'll dig into automations. App admins can scope an automation to multiple projects or to every project. We have analytics. We've got things like the audit log. So the app admin is the one role that can see everything, essentially. Global permissions are important. If you've ever gone in and you cannot make a space, that is because you don't have this global permission called create space. So keep in mind that that is one thing that the app admin controls, is the ability to make new spaces. Typically in organizations I work at, it's a fairly restricted permission because you don't just want anyone to go in and make a space. You'll end up with 15 spaces called human resources and no one knows which one's the legitimate one. So typically groups I work with don't give create space, but you can also do the ability to have a personal space. And again, every organization is different. Additionally though, the ability to enable guest access or public links or anonymous access or what permission apps have. So everything we think of again at the application level across Confluence, what is controlled by these permissions, it's all of the app admin. And again, if the app admin shuts some of these off, if I turn off public links from my instance, space admins can't go use it. So it's, I can turn off the spigot, so to speak. If I turn it on, it doesn't force them to use, say, anonymous access. It just makes it possible to be used. The next is global automations. So when a space admin creates an automation, it is scoped, it is restricted just to running within that space. And so it's kind of like an extra filter. If I think of an action or a trigger for the automation, what kicks it off, there's an implied filter saying, in this space, if this happens, then start. Space admins can get around that. They can scope an automation to all spaces, a truly global automation, or Kythro, I'm curious what you're reading that if you could share a link somewhere about what got you there. It seems like you had your own journey. You can also scope automations across specific spaces. For example, if you have a number of related projects that would all benefit from the same type of automation, you can tell this automation to only run on those 4 spaces and ignore the rest. Now, you want to be careful. Depending on your tier, you will have limits to the number of automation runs you can have. For example, on free, it's like 10 per month, on premium 100, on standard 100, on premium 1,000 per person. So you want to be careful about global automations because they will run everywhere. And in bigger organizations, you can quickly push a limit. Also, just in terms of your system, it can take a little bit longer for automations to run if there's a lot of automations. So if you start to notice things slowing down, or if you start to run into your limits, go check as an app admin what automations there are and just see if you can pare that down a little. You can also add shortcut links, and this is something I don't think about a lot, but you can insert links into the Rubik's Cube, the app switcher up in the top. By default, you're going to have one to your Confluence or Jira, but you could also insert a link here to your company's homepage or your company's career page or any other hyperlink you need. Again, this will be something you're going to want to tell your team about. Like, hey team, did you know there's extra links up here in this menu to give you access to our analytics tool? But you can add additional accessibility options to these platforms directly in Confluence. Again, the idea is to get everything there in front of someone so they don't have to click around and search. And this is another way app admins can do that. And I briefly mentioned at the start, we also get analytics. We can see site or app-wide analytics of what's going on, and this can be very useful. I forget who called it out earlier, but having a large number of inactive accounts might be something you want to go investigate. I think it was Debbie. Tracking down inactive pages or inactive spaces. Confluence is typically not the top of anyone's mind when they're thinking of, hey, what should I go do today? So having this ability to have oversight over everything can help you better manage the whole instance. So the analytics is something I am jumping into regularly to review and just see what's going on, as opposed to, say, configuring notifications, which I might only touch on once every 3 to 6 months. A quick call out. As always, I'm looking for feedback. I really want to... What's going on? There we go. I really want to know how I can be doing better. So if you have a minute, I'll drop a link to this Google form. It's 4 questions. It can be completely anonymous unless you choose to share who you are. But I want to know what you think of the sessions, what I can do better, what other topics I should cover. So that'll just take a minute. The link's in the form as well. All right, back into Confluence, and we're going to get global. Up at the top, I have a number of options, and these are, I don't know how they decided which specific ones belong up under monitoring and admin tools. In my mind, these are all admin tools, but we briefly looked at mission control, and again, this is everything in the instance. It's global. A lot of these reports will also have things I can drill into. So I'll use most viewed spaces. I can just click view all, and this will show me the analytics page of that. And that's a bad zoom. So here I can see the spaces. I can see how many views they get. I can see how many unique viewers. A viewing user. I've just made up a new word. Viewer. Let's remember that one. How many users have viewed it, when it was last viewed, updated, and created. Now, this is a very small instance. It's not very active. There's only 3 things. But I can change the time scale to say, hey, since the start of maybe 2024, how active? Oh, I can't go back that far. Well, fine. How far back can I go? Let's find out. Probably a year. Yes. So going back a year, what's the most active thing? Now, you can export this as a CSV, so you can go perform an analysis in your spreadsheet tool of choice. But here I can just click through and get an idea for what's going on in my instance. And if I start to see spaces that don't have a lot of use, I can go in and maybe I archive them off and get rid of them. Or I go talk to that space admin and I try to figure out, hey, why isn't this being used? Under analytics, I do have a lot more though. So that mission control is just like a window into some analytics, but the analytics link on the left here really digs into other things. One of the more interesting ones for me is searching. And this one is important because it will give you a good idea of how well your content is set up. For example, the search term JQuil had 2 searches, 1 person searched for it, and they didn't click on anything. So this suggests that they're not finding the content they need. Again, this is a very silly example because there's not much stuff. But you can imagine at a large company where people are searching for a lot of things, if you start to see a low click-through rate and a large number of searches, that suggests the content needs to be restructured, and you should go talk to your team about using different or better keywords to go handle what's going on. So this is certainly an area where, only the app admin can see this, which is a tiny bit annoying because I can imagine more people would find this useful. But this is a great resource to figure out how can our organization better leverage the tool. And that's an important reminder. As admins, our job isn't just to push the buttons, it's to help the team better use the platform as a whole to get a job done. And that job, in this case, is helping people find the right content. So that's our search bar. We can also see individual users, and we can see who's viewing how much they've created, etc. This will give you a good idea of your super users. So if the people at the top of this list, you may want to go talk to and figure out, hey, Kaithra, I see you make a lot of content. What do you do and how can I help support you? Or what can what can we change in the system to make your life a bit easier? Or you can also identify people who simply aren't using Confluence. And this could be an example of going to your org or user management admin and saying, hey, maybe these people don't need to come in here. They're not viewing anything in the past 6 months. So it's another way you can help support the team in terms of licensing. You can't do it directly, but you can point it out. Now, one very weird, annoying thing is our friends at Atlassian don't support data for non-pages. So this does not include access to whiteboards, databases, smart links, folders, anything not a page, blog, or live doc. So just keep that in mind. You don't want to be stripping access based only on this. Use this as a guideline, a starting point to go ask questions and figure out, hey, Kaithra, are you really using this or not? We're going to pop over to automations next, the next kind of globally scoped thing. And as a quick reminder, if you like this, hit the little thumbs up. Easiest way to support me as a professional content creator, I guess I should call myself. The automations menu will look pretty much the same for a app admin as it does for a space admin. Yes, Tushar. If you could ping me in Discord, because I will forget, I promise. The biggest difference here is, I have the ability to do things that aren't scoped just to one project. So as a space admin, and we're going to go through and make a globally scoped rule real quick. As a space admin, I'll be able to see it, but I can't touch it. As an app admin, I can. So I'll do one here where when a whiteboard is created, I want to do something. What would be a good then? I want to, sure, we'll send an email. Robert@heen.tech. Test. All right. Oh, and I missed something already. Oh, content. Haha. Send an email. Okay. So when I go to rule details here, I'm looking for my scope. And this is simply unavailable to space admins, but I can define the single space for it to run in. I can define multiple spaces for it to run in, and I can just keep selecting spaces. Or I can just say it's global. It runs everywhere. You'll notice that the default was global. And when I first created this, it's assuming that as the app admin, I want something to be everywhere. If I go back to rules, though, I can now see this global scope. And it looks like like a globe, which makes a lot of sense. If I pop into a specific space, oh, I broke the sidebar. That's exciting. I really broke the sidebar. Confluence? Make that smaller. There we go. It's back. If I go into a space and pop open automations, so now I'm as a space admin, I can see the default filter is just space rules. But I can open this up and then see global rules. So this is something else that space admins frequently don't realize. The default view here is just the automations running in the single space. There are, however, rules, if I go under all rules, that are going to be impacting everyone. And this is where it can be confusing. I'm glad it happens to other people, Chad. I find all kinds of weird UI bugs. Thank you for pointing that out too, Char. I'll see what I can figure out. But this is something else I'll make sure my space admins are aware of. Like, hey, just a heads up, check the scoped all rules because there will be some that are global that you won't see unless you go look. This is true in Jira as well, and it drives me absolutely bonkers because I forget about it. And there'll be actions taken for an automation that I can't find. And that's just because it's scoped globally. So go to all rules and they'll see them. But this is something that app admin can do. You can set up these global automations. And because I'm an app admin, I can flip these on and off. Next will be global permissions. And that's under my security and global permissions. And again, this is where you can give someone the ability to do things like make a space. Now, one thing to note about these, it's done by group. So I can't give one individual access to do this unless they are the only person in the group. I have to have a group of people I add in here. So this is where you might have to go work with an org or user management admin to put these things in. And this is where it can get frustrating because unless that org admin will help me out, I have no way of modifying the groups. Again, most places I work would have all of personal space ticked and create space for a very limited list of people. But I do have other abilities here. I can add guests. This also does require that my org admin has set up guests. So this is another layer of frustration on being an app admin. This requires someone above me in access to go have set up guests. So if you don't see anything here, that's going to be why. It's simply because in your org, there are no guest accounts yet. So if you don't see anyone here and you're expecting one, you have to go talk to your org admin. Now, keep in mind that even at the individual space level, guests are added to individual spaces. So if your space admins don't see guests, they might come ask you, and then you might have to go ask your org admin. Depending on your organization, you might be the org admin, which could make it very simple, or you might have to put in a ticket. Public links are the other major thing that we control as space admin or as app admins. And what I'm getting here is it's been allowed. Let me change my zoom. This access has been allowed for the entire site. And that means individual space admins can choose to make or allow public links. Now, this is an important thing to keep an eyeball on because these links are accessible outside of Confluence. And I can see that this particular space has a single page with a public link turned on. It was turned on in July. There have been 6 views. I, as the app admin, can override the ability for the space admin to do this feature. I can also do things like disable, but it allows someone to turn it back on, or block the ability to do this. So as the app admin, I always have this control to say, no, you can't do this. As an app admin, this is something we should be checking on a regular basis, like just reviewing public links and just seeing, okay, if they are allowed, how many are turned on and how many views are they getting? And if I see the view count get really big and explode for some reason, I might go investigate, and then I have the ability to block the entire space if I need to. So just a very important concept for us as administrators to make sure the system is being used properly. Same is true for anonymous access. We can disable anonymous access across the site. And by default, I think it's off. I'll have to double check that. But we have 2 options here. We can say you can come in and see Confluence, and then you can see user profiles. So depending on how you want to set it up, you can allow an admin to turn on anonymous access, but people using it won't be able to see user information. So again, you have a help center, you have release notes. This might be a way to do that. Alternatively, if your company's like, no, we don't ever want to do this, just shut it off at the app level, and then space admins will not be able to enable this feature. So another very important call out for us as admins is we shut this down and then no one can use it. If you're using Jira Service Management, a similar integration exists. You can prevent access to Jira Service Management, or other way around. You can prevent Jira Service Management folks from seeing Confluence information. Typically, I think we would turn this on because then your help desk agents can get help desk articles, but you can turn this off if you need to. And last, we have apps in Confluence. I don't have any added here, but this is where your app access would be controlled. Some apps need the ability to have a personal space or create a space or view user profiles. This is where we would do that, all under this global permissions. All right, what does the app admin key do? I think this is my last set of slides, and then we'll get hands-on again. I didn't know this thing existed, so I'll drop a quick poll and just see what folks think. So what now? I need one more option. I'm blanking here. Ooh, there we go. So a quick poll, what does the app admin key do? Now, as space admins, we do have some additional privileges that let us get in and do things that most folks can't or shouldn't do. One is we can self-grant ourselves the ability to be the space admin. So at any point, we can basically, if you're familiar with the Kool-Aid Man from like the 80s and 90s, he would just burst through a wall. We can do that to any space. We can just bust in and get access. We also have the admin key, which I'll talk about. I'll give folks a few minutes to answer this little quiz I threw together. But we have two abilities to get around access controls, essentially. Now, one thing to keep in mind, both of these tools are audited. So Confluence is going to be recording the fact that we have gone in and recovered admin permission is the phrase you'll see. And I put that in quotes because we're just giving ourselves space admin permission. For some reason we don't have it, we can go in and take it. And this is very useful because maybe the space admins are all on vacation and someone desperately needs access. Or maybe a space admin is confused or did something improperly or something else. And we need access to go help. And that's the important thing to remember. Like, as admins, we get this extra privilege, this extra access. We have to use it appropriately. And so this ability to recover the admin permission lets us go in and take control of a space, essentially. And we can do this for any space in the app. The next is the admin key, which most of us think is around API access, and it's not. In the context of an app admin, it is the ability to access restricted content. So I, as the app admin, have the ability to break into any restricted page in my system. Now, again, we want to use this appropriately. It is audited, so the system is recording the fact that we've done this, who did it and when. But again, this can be very useful if everyone who has access leaves the organization, or if they're on vacation, or if someone is really confused and we just have to go help them. This gives us the ability to go in and help them out. So again, this is privileged access, something that our security team will be keeping an eye on, hopefully, and something that we as app admins can keep an eye on. But we're going to pop back into, did I go the right way? I went the right way. Into our app admin panel, and we're going to go break into some spaces. From here, I'm just going to look for, under security, space permissions. And this is where I can do things like set up default space access. So when a new space is created, what access do they get? And it's also where I can turn off public links. But for this example, under all spaces, I have a list of every space. And I think I have to go into a different instance. Nope, I've got one. Perfect. What I'm looking for is this, recover admin permission. So this particular space, engineering support, my account doesn't have space admin for. So if I go and try and open this, it's going to say I don't have access. Perfect. So I'm going to go back and I can just click this button. Are you sure this will be logged? I'll say yes. And this should, after a tick, and now I can access the space. If I go into the space permissions, actually I haven't done this in a little while. Under users, here I am. You can see that I'm now on with admin access. So I've done this under the new UI or under the new role-based access. But this is how I can effectively break into content. I can also do the same thing with individual, or I can break into spaces. I can do the same thing with individual pieces of content, by using the admin key. So if I open up a restricted page, I'll have a button saying access using the admin key, and I'll be able to see it. Again, things that we can use to go help out someone in an appropriate fashion. And if I go to my audit log as the app admin, something I haven't spoken about much, I'll see that everything has been logged in here. Every action I've taken so far. I've added content user restriction. I added my banner. I've added content restrictions. I added myself as an admin. So I have all this information about what's been going on in the system. And this can go back up to a year. I can also export it so I can keep logs. But every action taken in our system is then recorded so we can go figure out what's going on. Whew. So that is the app admin. Again, this is not everything about being the app admin. To learn more, I've got an upcoming series on YouTube, again, free learning, walking through the certification. The Confluence Cloud Admin, I think it's called, will cover everything you need to pass that exam. Additionally, I've got 2 learning options. These are paid. There's a Udemy course, which I'll drop a link to. A little bit cheaper, but it doesn't include a course voucher. You have to pay for that separately. That's $250. 4.5 hours of content plus some other things for you, like practice exams. Or if you get it through my platform, selfishly my preferred way, you will get a certification voucher. So again, if you're looking at earning and passing this exam, these are great resources, and it'll also be free on YouTube. Otherwise, please keep dropping questions down in the chat. This is a topic that, again, I had no training on. I didn't know existed. I didn't know what they could do, which made it very hard to go get help. For example, I didn't realize that someone could break into restricted content, and I had team members leave and I couldn't get access. So that was just a general IT ticket. I had to wait and kind of figure that out. I'll drop another poll, though. Wow, certification. Helps if I spell. I think I spelled that right. Just curious who's interested in that Confluence Cloud Admin certification. Yes, it's on the list, Kima. I'll be honest, I've got a lot going on right now, so it's going to take time for me to create and manage things, but it's on the list, my friend. Otherwise, folks, check out these links. The one under my head is the full-length course. It's paid. The one under that is without the voucher. So go take a look at those. For the top one, there's also, you can sign up for free to build an account in my platform. You'll get updates on what's coming out. We've got the Discord community, which there'll be live chat, and I can see Kyther has already jumped in and put some information. Thank you, my friend. That's a great place to go. And I'll also see Tushar if I can figure out how to make it easier for you to use. Kyther's got a great tip here. If you're busting into, someone's space or someone's content, let them know. They do get a notification. Kima, I appreciate that. Yordanka, yes, the cross-app automations. Let me write that down because that's a good one. Cross. And one other call out. I'm taking a week off for summer break, which is ending for my kids. So you won't see me online between now and the 22nd when I've got another ACA certification training starting. On the 22nd, I'm also talking to my friend Rodney. He'll be sharing tips and tricks on how to get to Team, which is Atlassian's conference. The next one is in Europe. I will be there. I think Rodney will be there. So if you're in Barcelona in early October, let us know. We'd love to hang out. But I'll be talking to Rodney around how to budget and get to Team. And I'll be talking to Kyther around how to use Jira for personal projects and managing your life. So a bunch of great content. Next time you'll see me, though, is the 22nd. So please keep in mind, I'm taking about 10 days off. Yordanka, welcome. I'm glad you said another one. You've been here before. It looks like a lot of us are interested in that certification. So please join me again on YouTube. That'll start mid-September. It'll be 8 to 12 sessions, and check out the courses down below. They'll be an amazing resource for you. Daria, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. Yes, Kyther, I don't believe app admins can log in as a user. That's more of an org or user management admin thing, but very similar concept of you're doing something on their behalf. They should know. It's always good to let people know. Debbie, you're welcome. Thank you for sharing your 9,000 inactive pages. Good luck. Let me know how that goes. That's great to hear, Yordonka. My goal is to help folks avoid frustration and the pain of using systems. And if you enjoy it, that's even better. All right, folks. Thank you all again for joining. Scott, good to see you. Didn't realize you were here. Definitely check out those links below. A lot of great information. Pop into Discord. Join us there to get a lot more live chat and support, not just on certifications, but on anything Atlassian and things not Atlassian, like cats. It's a very popular channel for some reason, although I do like cats. But thank you all again for learning with me. Really appreciate you joining, and I'm looking forward to seeing you around here again soon.